morning, sports fans. Well, where do we find ourselves today? Well, today I'm at home in Chicago. I am self-quarantined. My wife and I got back from Spain about 19 days ago. No symptoms. We've been very, very careful. And then the governor of our state put a shelter-in-place order in place last Saturday, so we're hunkering down like everybody else is. Today, I want to bring you a video that was shot a couple of years ago. A buddy of mine, Philip Schwartz, and I were on a 5-day motorcycle ride through Wisconsin and Michigan. And it was going to be a camping trip. We were going to see some waterfalls. And day one, no issues. We rode up to somewhere in the middle of Wisconsin. We camped for the night. The next day, our intent was to head up to our second campground, get an early start in the morning, drop off our gear at the second campground, and then we had a fishing charter scheduled for 1 o'clock that afternoon. So we rode our motorcycles toward the harbor where the fishing boat was, but before we got there, a black bear came busting out of the woods and T-boned Philip, totaled his motorcycle, and broke his leg, okay? So I'm going to dive into this video right now and kind of show you what happened. I apologize because I did not get the video of the impact when the bear hit him. I didn't have my GoPro on because I didn't have a charging system for it at that point. But what I did is I stopped. He rode off. He never lost control of the motorcycle, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But he rode off, so I figured, okay, you're good. And so I stopped. I turned on my GoPro, and I went back to survey the damages. Let's take a look. All right, so the accident has just happened, and I've turned on the GoPro. I'm heading back to the scene of the accident. You can start to see the debris field here from Philip's pannier that exploded, there is the bear. He's having a seizure. I showed this video to a doctor later that day, and he said, yeah, he's having a seizure. He did get up about 5-7 minutes later and kind of shook his head and walked off into the forest. More debris. Now, as I approach Philip here, I've slowed this down. You can see that the right-hand side of his bike is missing, right? It's been completely wiped out. And, you know, I asked him if he's okay. Asked him a couple of times, and he says, I think I broke my leg. So I then proceed to pull up, turn my motorcycle off, and I say to him, all right, I'm going to call 911. We start to have a discussion about the accident and what happened, and while we're having that discussion, we look back, and it's about this point that the bear is kind of getting up and shaking his head a little bit and heading off into the forest. And then next thing we're going to do here is take a look at the damages.
Hold a second, I got him. I really got him.
All right, we are assessing the damage to Philip's bike after a bear hit him. So the front right fork is damaged. The highway bar peg has been twisted around. The gas tank has been dented in, and his entire right side case was ripped off, and the locks on the top case have been broken as well. I've got some damage to the rear right fender here, and not seeing anything else at the present. If we find something more, I'll do another video. Okay, now the first EMT has shown up. This particular gentleman, he's dressed fairly casually. I think maybe he was off duty that day, but he did arrive in a truck that had flashing lights on it. And so he gets his kit and he starts to examine Philip. In the meantime, I'm showing the sheriff Philip's registration and information about the motorcycle. This EMT, he was here primarily to make sure that there was no blood loss. If there was a traumatic injury to the leg, he wanted to get that stopped right away. Unfortunately, there was no blood loss. It was simply a broken leg. Now, they're asking me what happened, and I start to, you can see by my hand gestures that I'm showing them how the bear came in from the side, hit Philip, his front right fork, and gas tank and his knee kind of all at the same time, and then rolled down the side of the motorcycle, destroying everything on the right-hand side there. They continue to treat Philip. Now I'm taking a phone call, and this is from the fishing charter wanting to know where are we? And I'm going to go ahead and let you listen to this conversation.
We were heading your direction, and Philip got hit by a bear on his motorcycle, and we think he's got a broken leg. We have the police and medics here right now, so I don't think we're going to be going fishing this afternoon.
So I ended that conversation by saying, I don't think we're going fishing today. Now you can see me in the background. We started off early in the morning. It was a little chilly. By this time, it had gotten pretty warm, and I'm walking around, so I just stripped down, take my pants off, my motorcycle pants off, because I had a liner inside, and I wanted to get that liner off so I could be a little bit cooler. Nobody around, so I just decided to change clothes in the middle of the forest here, right? All right. That EMT is done with his exam. We're just now waiting for the ambulance to show up, and there's the ambulance. Now, this all took probably an hour from the time of the accident. So the ambulance is here. They're going to bring out a stretcher for Philip. Again, as the EMT comes up to me, she wants kind of a description of what's happened. I explained to her how it happened and where his injury was. She's going to proceed then to cut off his motorcycle jeans. He's wearing rocker motorcycle jeans with CE2 armor, which we highly recommend, and we'll talk about that a little more at the end of the video. All right. These guys, I didn't even see them show up. I don't know who they are, but they must have come in the ambulance. So anyway, we had lots of help that day. All right, the sheriff, he's kind of looking, I'm not sure what he's looking for here, but he looked back at my bike a couple of times. I think he saw that I was recording. So here comes the stretcher now. They're going to get a splint on Philip's leg so they can transport him safely to the hospital. In this scene, you can see the pants have already been cut off his leg. Now he's got the splint on. And then they are going to load him on. My dog's barking in the background. Bria, hey, be quiet. I'm doing a video here. Be quiet. All right, sorry. Anyway, they're going to load him up here on the video. Or, sorry, load him up on the stretcher. These folks were so nice. I mean, it's, you know, we're all dealing with first responders right now. They've put their lives at risk to help others, and I just can't be more pleased with them. Another sheriff has just arrived to see if he can lend some assistance. So we had just a ton of help this day. Now the sheriff is just kind of picking up some things, and he's asking me, did we get all the debris, particularly the pannier on the right? And I'm saying, no, that a car came by right after the accident, and they took me down. We got as much of the debris as possible, but the pannier was still left down there. Incidentally, the car that stopped right afterwards, they were out setting bear traps. It was a family setting bear traps. How weird is that? Right, so they're telling me to get geared up so I can follow him to the hospital.
What they're going to do is go to Keweenaw Aspirus. It's really simple to get to. Okay. So if you get separated from the ambulance, basically you're going to go back this way. It's a Mohawk. You're going to come to an intersection. You turn left. That's US 41. Yep. You're going to head south. You're going to get to Calumet. You're going to go through one flashing light, then a second stoplight. Okay. At the third light, which will be flashing, you turn left. And you can't miss it because there's signs. And what's it called? Aspirus Keweenaw. Aspirus Keweenaw. Yep. Hospital. Yep. Okay. Great. Thank you. And it's in Calumet. Well, technically it's in Laurium, but okay. Just past. Yeah. Okay. Well, Calumet's on one side of the road, Laurium's on the other.
There'll probably be a couple minutes with the ambulance, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, I'll just chill then. I thought
They're not quite ready to roll yet.
All right, good enough. Thanks.
Keweenaw Aspirus.
You want to try some more morphine? You want to try some more morphine?
Okay, in wrapping up this video, there's a couple of things I want to talk about in relation to Philip's injury and how, because of two things that he did, how his injury was not nearly as bad as it could have been. So the first thing I want to point out, and of course we don't have a video to show you that, but I've had lots of discussions with Philip about this accident since it happened. And Philip and I both ride motorcycles all the time. Both of us have more than 100,000 miles under our belt on motorcycles. We take training classes, we go to do track days, we do everything we can to learn our abilities, our motorcycles' abilities. So we're not the best riders in the world, but we practice and practice and practice. One of the things Philip did is he saw the bear coming. He kind of felt it out of the corner of his eye. And just before impact, he pulled back on the throttle and pulled in his clutch. Now, why does that make a difference? Well, if the engine is not engaged in to that back tire and that back wheel, and the motorcycle gets hit and loses traction, if that wheel is engaged with the engine, as soon as that rear wheel comes back down and catches the pavement, it's going to take off. And in many cases, that can cause a high side, can cause a really bad accident. But what Philip did instinctively, because of his years of practice riding motorcycles, is just prior to the collision, he rolled off the accelerator and he pulled in the clutch, thus disengaging the motor from the rear wheel. And I think that's why he never lost control of the bike. He got hit. It actually physically pushed the bike to the side, but he kept riding. And I think it was because he pulled in on that clutch. So that's the first thing that I think helped minimize how bad this could have been. The second thing is his gear. Okay, you heard me mention these rocker jeans with CE level 2 armor in them. Both Philip and I are subscribers to the acronym ATGAT. That's all the gear, all the time. Doesn't matter what the temperature is outside. It could be 110 degrees. It could be 20 degrees, whatever it is. We always wear gear. We wear armored boots, armored gloves, full face helmets, armor in our pants, in our coats, back armor. I even have an airbag that I wear with me nowadays. It's an air vest, okay? So we believe that, Philip's rocker jeans, highly recommend them, and here's a picture of them, and the CE armor that he had in his knee helped prevent more serious damage to his leg. So that's it, folks. When you're out on motorcycles, you just never know what's going to happen. Things can jump out of the middle of nowhere and you just don't know. So you've got to be prepared. You have to have good skills and you have to have the right gear. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a big thumbs up and subscribe. Take care.